Hello and welcome to Straight Talk's review of day 2 of book 1 at the New Zealand Bloodstock National Yearling Sales here at Karaka. Brennan O'Brien and Tim Rowe joining you on behalf, brought to you by, of course, our fabulous sponsors, Dahlia and Inglis. Tim, we've wrapped book 1. It was a very positive end to the sale. Yeah, we'll talk stats in a minute. I'll talk stats now, actually. We'll go straight into it. Looks at this stage, average is up significantly from last year to 187,500, up from 164,000 last year. Aggregate's up despite the fact a lot fewer horses were sold. 37 horses in all fewer horses in all was sold. Medium results also jumped. Clearance also up. I think we spoke to Andrew Seabrook, and we'll go to that a bit later on, but they clearly would be happy with how things evolved today.
Yeah, of course, average with a smaller catalogue would go up, but I think the fact that aggregate also went up above last year is really important. Clearly made the right decision. There's been debate about the format of this sale for a few years, whether, there was even suggestions by certain people just to have a one book super session almost, just for the elite, so-called elite horses. And that was thrown out, in my view, as, you need to get the horses in front of as many buyers as possible rather than sort of segregating them too much. But, there's obviously a limited number of boxes here. They've got books 1 and book 2s all shown at once. I think that worked. Magic Millions have had that issue with the Gold Coast in January as well, with more horses than boxes available, and trying to logistically manage that. And at the moment, on face value, NZB have sort of got the mix right. We'll see how book 2 goes tomorrow, and then there's a summer sale on Thursday as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously today's trade, they were long days, as you said, but today went pretty quickly. They sort of smashed through them pretty quickly. The lots as they went through, and they finished probably an hour earlier than they did yesterday. And, of course, the clear highlight of the day, Tim, was the $1.1 million paid for a sort of state colt, a half-brother to Cheryl Wolf, of course, we know very well in Australia, and 4-time Group 1 winner. And it was, an outstanding result in a lot of ways. But I think, Will Bourne was the eventual successful buyer. But there's a bit more to this story, isn't there, in terms of the buying structure? It's not just a clear sort of Kieran Maher buyer. There's the person involved in buying the horse is actually, clearly keen to be more involved in, ownership in the Australian landscape.
Well, Mr. Gao, mainland Chinese owner, he came for the first time to the Ready to Run sale in November and bought, I think it was 3 colts with Lindsay Park. He'd been to the Everest and saw a Kaying Rising win, and he just had to be involved. I mean, I don't know whether they've had the ownership ballots yet for Hong Kong Jockey Club, but he was putting his hand up for that and already buying horses and betting that he'll get a permit, and hopefully he does. But so he's got 3 with, I think it was Lindsay Park, and then he's teamed up with Kieran Maher and to get this sort of state colt in front of it. There was obviously, being a half to Cheryl Wolf, there's plenty of talk about him. But I went downstairs, I was going to watch a race at Geelong, Bren, and Sam White said, there'll be a big colt just about to go through $1 million, you better get back up there. So I ignored that and watched the race on the on the laptop instead. And then Sam's mail was spot on. That there was David Ellis and Will Bourne going head to head for $1.1 million.
Yeah, and it was definitely sort of lit up the day. We obviously had some other results as well, but I think what was also significant was the significance it was for Cambridge Stud, Tim. This was a big moment for them, their stallion, which is significant enough as it is. But the fact that they were selling this very well credentialed colt themselves.
As Brendan told me, they've. And I asked him, they have had a tough start. They bought Cambridge Stud, obviously Sir Patrick Hogan founded it, and Zabeel and Sir Tristram, so much history. But when they took over, they just had a lot of bad luck. No one's fault. Just 3 stallions died. As we know, breeding horses is hard at the best of times commercially, but to be leading vendor, it's really, really important for Brendan and Joe and Cambridge Stud and the staff and the industry, I think, as a whole, because they've poured a lot of money in, buying a lot of nice fillies that will, are at stud and will go to stud, that we'll see for the next 5, 10, 15 years, really making their presence felt.
And here's that chat with Brendan Lindsay.
It's significant obviously for Cambridge Stud, for Joe and I, but more so the staff. They do all the hard work, and they'll be jumping around doing hoops down there. It's sort of, it's a funny old game, because you hope, you dream, and you get a result like that, and you get nervous, and then you get emotional, and then, then you've got the next few years to look forward to seeing what happens.
It hasn't been easy since you've taken over. A lot of just, I would say, bad luck with stallions and different things, but sort of stayed a young stallion you've backed seems to be, started very promisingly, and clearly the buyers,
Well,
backing that up.
When would you ever see a 15,000 service fee making 1.1 million in the sale ring?
And he's not a lone wolf there either. There's a lot of breeders that have supported him who've done very well the last 18 months.
They have. And, the people that have supported him have supported us right from the very start. So we get a great deal of pleasure seeing the sort of states get it going through the ring, making 300,000 or 400,000 for another stud. It's bloody great because they're making some money out of the horse just like we are.
Yeah. And Chia Wolf, he's obviously helped, one of the premier weight for age horses in Australasia. And obviously you followed this colt, Michael Guerin, a supporter of ours that, you named him Mickey G and followed him, documented his journey to the sale.
But how could you, sometimes things are written in lights, how could you, Michael say, I want to follow a horse through the sale. He came to us late in the season. So we followed him right from the start. But the reality is we could have picked one of 100 horses, but he's the one that got picked. And then Showwolf went off and won 4 Group 1s. I mean, it's sort of like quite amazing, really.
And I heard you say, and you've kept a small share in the colt. You'd want to continue that journey, and maybe one day he's back here standing it.
Well, I would have liked to have taken a bigger share in the colt, to be honest. I mean, I didn't really want to sell him, but at the same time, you got to sell him. He's a cracker. And, you don't pay 1.1 million for a horse if he's a cracker, and you can see that walking around the ring. And, it's not as much you fall in love with them, but you do fall in love with them.
How have you found their overall sales? I touched on the $850,000 one yesterday, but obviously you've got Al Manzour's and Hello Zanes, and, you've got a big draft there. How have you found it?
We've had a fantastic sale. Couldn't have gone better for us. It's beyond our expectations. We have hopes and dreams, but it's beyond our expectations. And New Zealand Bloodstock have done a fantastic job with their 100 years. And I want to thank all the Australians that have made a journey over here and all the people that actually have bought horses from us.
And because you did back the sale with your whole draft, and, understandably a lot of big commercial farms send a few to Australia to, spread the risk and just diversity and things like that. But you did support this special sale.
We supported it with all the horses, and, we've got the results. But we're not the only one that's done that. There's other studs that have done it as well. But, we're Kiwis. The horses are bred in, they're born in New Zealand, and it's 100 years. It's momentous. And we're a young country, and it's a young sales company in terms of world, but it's fantastic.
You must be excited with what's to come. I speak to Henry Conte semi-regularly. Got a lot of nice fillies that have retired or about to be retired, to really kick on and continue the lineage, I guess.
Yes. Oh, we are, and we've spent quite a bit of money on race horses and racing them and upgrading our pedigrees. So, we are looking forward to the future. But today, we're just looking forward to having a nice bottle of red wine.
And well justified. Congratulations, Brendan.
That's Sir Brendan Lindsay, we should probably call him Tim, but obviously that was one of the highlights. And we also later in the day, early in the day, we had Guy Mulcaster put his hand up for a very well-related justified colt, $950,000. Big result for them. Obviously, going to Chris Waller. It's from the family of Camille Pissarro, who's a successful 2 or 3 times Group 1 winner in France. That Coolmore has got an investment in, and that's going to start this year. So it was a big, rich pedigree, and probably commanded that sort of fee and that sort of price. So and they were able to get it across the line.
Yeah, obviously the half brothers by Wootton Bassett and Coolmore are all in behind that. Stallion obviously lost him, and now I think they've got 2 or 3 sons that are and will go to stud. And Justify, they're a big believer in as well, and obviously sent the mare there. And Guy Mulcaster said, hoping he's the next Storm Boy or learning to fly, sort of talented early running sort of 2-year-old. And poor old my mate Peter Toomey would have paid a lot of school fees, I think, for his daughter going to boarding school this year. He was underbidder, so hopefully that client's sent it back, getting one of the English sales perhaps later in the year. But it was a big, there's a lot of interest in that colt as well, and talk for a few days leading in.
Now, the positive result, there's a story back up on the straight, which I encourage you to read today, was $850,000 for the Alabama Express. It was a really good result for Alston Park, who only been around for a few years. Lib Britannia sort of brought up the old Balachi downside, didn't he, and sort of set that up as his own outfit, and it's only been going for 4 years. A great result for them, $850,000, as I said, for the Alabama Express colt, and a sort of a good sign for them moving forward.
Well, Alston Park's only been around for 4 or 5 years, but Lib's been around a lot longer than that, with teaming up with Bruce Perry, the bloodstock agent, for a lot of years, buying really nice fillies and horses to race, and obviously Lucia Valentina is probably the best known of those, and they've been breeding and upping their numbers to a sort of manageable boutique level and getting the quality through now with that $850,000 Alabama Express colt to probably be trained in Victoria. Ron and Judy Wanless will own that horse. They've got a horse with Peter Moody in Victoria. Whether he goes there or another trainer, I'm not sure, but certainly got a few in Victoria.
Yeah, and you got up with Libertanian and talked through the importance of that result.
From just looking at the pedigree, big result, but it's a family. Certainly, you've had the second dam. I don't know if you had Grey Rose, but
no, we didn't. We bought Rosa and raced her.
Yeah.
And she was a very smart, fast filly. And then we really, when I started into breeding with her and around that time, and that's when we kept her, and she left. I think Diva was her first foal, and we ended up keeping her. But it's funny. She's out of a Tavachi mare. We've got 2 Tavachi mares on the property, and they've both left lovely offspring. So I know he wasn't the most commercial sire, but I think he's going to be quite a good broodmare sire, at least for us, he is.
Yeah. And what was the thinking about sending her to Alabama Express at that stage of his stallion career?
Well, it was relatively new, but he was a lovely type. We thought on type that she would suit him. So we sent her over there, and we obviously got a cracking foal out of a lovely colt, gone to a good home. And we appreciate the support from Millie and Ronnie.
Yes. At the moment, Equal Sale Topper, what were your expectations? Even I'm just looking him parade around the ring. He's a lovely horse, but what were you...
Look, you just don't know. We thought he was going to go for a good money, but if you've got 2 strong bidders on a nice horse, you just don't know. So we thought he would be our most expensive lot, but honestly, you just don't know in this game.
And you just have one go through after him, but how have you found the sale so far, a day and a half in?
Oh, look, we've gone pretty well. There's a few lots where we've just managed to get them away, but on the whole, we've had good feedback from the buyers, and we're here to sell. So, we'll meet the market, and occasionally when you've got 2 strong bidders, you just don't know what you'll get.
And the Elston Park, since you've gone out and launched under your own brand, and it's building nice, a lot of nice horses coming off the property.
Yeah, we have. Look, but this is only our 4th sale, so we can't point to a string of Group 1 winners over 20 years that we've bred. So our oldest with the brand on are only just turned 4, and the first 2 drafts were quite small. Last year we sold 26, and 4 of them got into that Karaka field.
Yeah.
So I think we got some nice, 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds that'll start to come through. So this is about the right size for us.
Yeah.
30 to 35, and that's where we'll be probably going forward. But we've had good support, so we appreciate it from the buying bench, and I think people know we don't keep our best stock at home now. We bring our best stock to market.
Well done, Lib. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, Tim, so it's important off the back of that. So I just realised how important this sale is for the vendors in New Zealand. They have invested more money and better mares and better fillies and buying horses and better stallions over here. And the end-tail effect, we've spoken about that before, is key as well. But I think what we're seeing here is the improvement of the commercial value of the bloodstock over here, and that's reflecting the results we're seeing.
It's not easy. They have endeavoured to upgrade. They do send horses, breeders and vendors to Australian sales, but this is their 1 week of the year where they get to generate an income, really. They can't take huge drafts here, there and everywhere. So to get the horses right on this week without problems going wrong, it's quite, they do a great job, and they do, as people have said, punch above their weight with sales results and things like that.
Excellent. We have
racetrack, I should say.
Yeah, we had an extended chat with Andrew Seabrook from NZB, just about sort of how he reflected on the week and the positives he takes out of it.
And now we're joined by Andrew Seabrook. Andrew, it's a momentous occasion, I guess, as we've touched on 100 years, but you must be delighted. Aggregate up on last year, and the Australian spend was more than $41 million as well, which is also up year on year despite a smaller catalogue.
Yeah, really thrilled. I mean, to hit the turnover's gone up 3 million with 94 less horses catalogued. Sales gone from 3 days to 2 days. So to exceed the turnover by 3 million is huge. Yeah, Australia was fantastic. Their spend's gone up 7 million to 41 million, which is wonderful. The support we've had from Australia the last couple of days, and a lot of people returning that haven't been for a while to support the 100 sale was fantastic. It's just gone so well from the race meeting on Saturday night with that wonderful atmosphere, and the crowd yesterday for the opening day on Sunday was amazing, and it's just continued today. And to have a clearance rate of 80% on sale day, that'll continue to go up, but we haven't done that for a number of years. So, and the average been well up, sort of around the 185,000 mark, and so no, it's all gone really well.
Does it validate sort of your planning around this? You had condensed the sale. There's always a risk with those things, but
yes,
to effectively run a sale more efficiently but get more money back is actually probably the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, we were very conscious of wanting to make sure the Australians stayed here for book 1 and 2, and we couldn't do that under the old format. So we wanted to. They haven't got the time to spend away from Australia, especially with the Magic Million sale being so close this year, so needing to get home. So it's worked really well. We've sold more horses on each day, as you know, but the book 2 horses have been all available there for everyone to see, and I think that's been a huge help for the sale. And the response and the feedback we've got from Australians in particular is that they love the new format.
The top lot, the sort of state colt that was bought by Kieran Maher Racing and Mr. Gow. The industry is always looking for new participants. And Mr. Gow came to the ready to run, so
Yes.
sort of as an unknown, and now he's dipped his toe in the water here, well, significantly with a $1 million colt.
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese market is one that we've been exploring for 30 years, and it hasn't really gone very far until the last sort of 12 months. I know Yearling came along a few years ago, but these horses are now being bought and raced in Hong Kong by mainland Chinese who are now members of the jockey club, so members of the Hong Kong jockey club. So that's a huge opportunity for us. There was 4 or 5 Chinese down for the sale that are members of the jockey club buying, so that's fantastic. I pleasantly surprised. I thought Ready to Run sale would be their go, but great to see them buying yearlings here.
For Cambridge stud leading Bendor under Brendan and Joe Lindsay, as I said to Brendan, it hasn't been an easy ride since they've had it with the loss of stallions and different things, and just running a breeding business. But for them to have multiple significant results this week, it's really important for them and the industry.
Yes, I mean they did it tough there to start, losing 3 stallions, but Brendan and Joe, or Sir Brendan and Lady Joe gave us their full support very early on in the piece. They wanted to support the 100th yearling sale to the maximum. To see them get $10 million in turnover, which hasn't been done for some time, is fantastic. To see their stallion sort of state so popular and getting that $1.1 million horse, I'm thrilled for them.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a change in the guard a little bit. We've obviously seen Savabill's been such a brilliantly dominant stallion for a long time, but there's a host of stallions. Satano and Leonard's had a great sale as well. Plus here we've obviously know that he's got the runs on the board as well. But to see sort of state at that level when he's only got his first runners at the track, it's really sort of a validation of the quality of stallions he's got coming through in New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it augurs well. I mean, the stallion strength here is very good at the moment, and then next year, looking forward, as I'm already thinking about 2027 sales, we're going to have the first crop of Paddington and Chaldine. So, and then the year after we're going to have the August Rodan. So I think the future in New Zealand is really good.
For book 2, as you mentioned, the domestic buyers, are they hanging around and because they've been able to see all the horses at once, be strong tomorrow to fill their stables?
Well, the domestic spend was down 6 million in book 1, so I haven't analysed those results in full, so that's a little bit surprising. So I would expect them to kick in tomorrow and Thursday, but don't worry, there's plenty of Australians here still be bidding tomorrow. I mean, they've had the opportunity to see the horses on the grounds, so if they're not here in person themselves tomorrow, they'll be still bidding. I think book 2 will be a pretty strong sale tomorrow.
Well, just with that Australian spend, you spoke about it before. Obviously, there was the lure of the 100th year and all that sort of stuff. obviously the exchange rate, we've spoken about that before. I guess that's significant. I guess if you calculated that in, the Australians themselves have probably spent around about the same as what they did last year, but with the exchange rate in terms of their currency. But in your currency, it looks quite well. I guess, how do you plan for that to go forward? How do you make sure that in 2027 you've got the same strength, or later on the ready to run sale this year, that you've got the same strength of Australian buyers here in the ground?
Well, first thing we'll be doing is trying to get the full vendor support again like we had this year. So that's always the first thing when planning a sale is, right, let's go out and target our vendors, get as many good horses as we can, make sure they support us again. The continued success, we continue to market. I mean, this industry is so much about one-on-one relationships and face-to-face relationships and building those relationships, which take time. And I just feel we've got to a point in our industry now where it's not just about the horses either. I mean, the Australians love coming to Karaka. You know, they love the atmosphere here. They love the hospitality that the vendors and NZB give them. And, you know, as long as we continue to see the success on the track, that's going to be key. I mean, at the end of the day, if our horses continue to perform, that's going to be the number one thing that attracts them here.
And just quickly on, there's the new summer sale on Thursday.
Yes.
Expecting sort of buyers to come in for that specifically, or hang around?
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be some, we've done quite a bit of work on that sale, so we're expecting some fresh buyers to come in from around the country for that. And even there'll be some Australian buyers still there for that. Don't worry. There's some pretty good judges that I've been talking to today. They've spotted a few in the summer sale on Thursday. So that might be I think that could surprise. I think we might be in for a pretty good sale on Thursday.
Congratulations, Andrew, on a very good book one, and best of luck for the next few days.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
So that's it, Tim. We're done with book one. I'm off tomorrow back to Australia. You'll be around for book two. There'll be coverage of that on thestraight.com.au, so keep an eye on that. We'll be back into the usual trail on Straight Talk in the next week or so. Tim, sort of how do you reflect on the week, and where things are sitting, after we've got two sort of major yearling sales with Magic Millions, obviously, and then now we're through New Zealand Bloodstock's the book one sale at Karaka?
I think it's quite positive, particularly. New Zealand's got to be extremely satisfied, but it's trucking along well without booming or anything like that. But there's certainly, most importantly, the bottom hasn't fallen out of it. There seems to the trainers here, particularly Australian spend being up, shows that there's interest, there's owners there that they're able to sell those horses on, and particularly even from Magic Millions, they must have been able to sell down quite a few of those. So I think heading into the English sales, Classic, is only around the corner. We should be reasonably optimistic of a fair market.
Terrific. Well, thanks for listening to us over the last few days. As I said, we'll be back on Straight Talk. Send us an email to editor@straight.com.au. Thanks to our sponsors, Inglis and Darley. Always great to have them on board again this year. And we'll talk to you again very soon.